Welcome back to another episode of Conversations. My name is Conman167, and they say we only get Christmas once a year, but as a pro wrestling fan, doesn't it feel like we get it 3 times a year? Like, of course, you got your December 25th Christmas that everybody seems to enjoy, but then January rolls around for the Royal Rumble, or if you were in 2025, February, and then April rolls around for what I think is even bigger than Christmas. It's Wrestlemania, and this year's Wrestlemania looks like it is going to be a very, very fun ride. 2 nights yet again, and let me just say right out of the gate that the 2-night WrestleManias, I think, are an incredible success. It's only a matter of time before every single WWE PLE is 2 nights. But right now, the WrestleMania format of night 1 and night 2 with a major main event on both nights is just so entertaining to watch. And it makes the entire weekend feel like a grander deal. But I've been watching wrestling since 2005 and really started to watch WrestleManias around 2008. So I'm not like a long-term fan. You know, I'm not somebody who watched the Attitude Era. I'm not somebody who watched the Golden Age or anything like that. I mean, hell, I was born in 1995, so that's not really my fault. But as soon as I started to get into pro wrestling, it took a few years for me to actually get to watch WrestleMania, and that's because, well, the freaking prices were so damn expensive to watch on TV. I can remember pulling up a pay-per-view on my satellite, asking my parents, could I throw this on for the night? And it was $72. It was $72 on pay-per-view back in, 2007? Maybe. It might have been 2006. I don't know the year it was, but it took a few years before I was actually able to watch a WrestleMania. Well, that got me thinking about what were the WrestleMania matches that made me, Conman167, a pro wrestling fan. What did I see through the years? What moments did I experience that I was like, this is why I love pro wrestling? That's what we're going to talk about here today. So welcome again to Conversations, and these are the WrestleMania matches that made me a fan. Now, this list isn't going to be like in a particular order. I'm literally going to go through the years and talk about the moments that, well, resonated with me most. If there was something from WrestleMania 19 that for some reason resonated with me the most, then obviously I would talk about it. But the problem is anything before WrestleMania 24 is just kind of there for me. And I know people are going to immediately be like, Con, this list is immediately invalid. How are you not going to have anything from WrestleMania 17? How are you not going to have like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man from WrestleMania 3? How are you not going to have anything mentioning Hulk Hogan? Like there's a reason for that. And it's because I legitimately didn't get to experience any of that live. And one of the best parts about pro wrestling is the not knowing. Not knowing where the story's going, not knowing what twists and turns are coming, and as a result, experiencing it live is the best way to experience pro wrestling. And anybody who watches back these legendary moments, like in the future, knowing where the story is going, it's not going to have the same impact. So like for me, none of my moments come before WrestleMania 24. The very first one, though, that stood out to me that I didn't even get to watch live, I watched it on YouTube, like I want to say a month later after WrestleMania, so I knew the result, but it was the very first WrestleMania match I ever watched, and that was Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24, when Shawn Michaels said, "I'm sorry, I love you," super kicked Ric Flair in the face and ended his career. Well, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. Ended his time in WWE as an active in-ring performer. That's probably a better way to put it, because he certainly didn't end his career. But that moment to me, this was like my introduction to pro wrestling outside of a Monday Night Raw, outside of a Friday Night SmackDown. I just hadn't seen a top tier level match, something with emotion, something that I'd seen the story build up, but not get to actually see the payoff, right? And a lot of the times as a young wrestling fan, I didn't get to see the payoff of stories. I would watch Raw, I'd watch SmackDown. They build it up. Pay-per-view would come around and I'd have to look up the results on WWE.com. I just simply didn't get to watch pay-per-views for quite a while. So seeing this match, it might actually not have even been on YouTube. It might have been on like Daily Motion or something like that. But seeing Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels wrestle for WrestleMania 24 and the end of Ric Flair's career, it just stood out to me. It was high drama. It was something that I hadn't experienced before. And again, it was my very first pay-per-view match, at least that I personally can remember watching in real time. Guys, that's a lie. That's a lie. It wasn't real time, but you get what I mean. Pretty much real time. Seeing it on the screen, watching it happen, knowing the result, but not knowing what to expect. It was such a cool moment for me as a pro wrestling fan. And I think I could confidently say I was hooked at that point because I didn't miss WrestleMania 25. WrestleMania 25 was like the first like pay-per-view I got to watch live, if I'm remembering correctly. There's been a few things throughout the years where I've said I think maybe Money in the Bank 2011 was the first one that I watched live, and that's just not true because I can remember going back in time at WrestleMania 25 and watching Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels wrestle in just that incredible match that they put on at 25. Everybody knows the one that I'm talking about. It's usually discussed as one of the greatest matches of all time, but I don't have much of a memory from the rest of the show, if I'm being honest with all of you. I do, however, remember Taker and Michaels tearing the house down. To this day, it is one of my favorite matches of all time. And I'll say I almost shit my pants as a kid, okay? I watched Taker come over that top rope, jump down to the floor, and crash into that cameraman. I thought he was dead. I thought this was it. Like, Undertaker's streak was done. There's no way he's getting up from that. And to still see Undertaker defeat Shawn Michaels and honestly go into an incredible story over the next year. I could almost put WrestleMania 26 and 25 in this exact same spot because it meant something to me. This is when Shawn Michaels became one of my favorite performers, which is wild to say that it was right at the very end of his career, but I had seen him perform for a few years. Took a little bit more to like the John Cenas of the world, the Edges of the world. And I never really decided like, Shawn Michaels was going to be my guy. I enjoyed Triple H a little bit more, but then it was WrestleMania 24, seeing that match against Ric Flair, and then 25 cemented Shawn Michaels as one of my favorite performers of all time. Not only then to mention the WrestleMania 26 right after that, like those 3 years right there made Shawn Michaels one of my favorites, if not my favorite of all time. It always changes, right? You never know who's actually at the top of your list. Some days it's like, oh yeah, it's absolutely Shawn Michaels. Other days, for some damn reason, it's Dolph Ziggler. Like, it depends on the day. It depends how I'm feeling, okay? But those 3 years in a row, WrestleMania 24, 25, and 26 with Shawn Michaels, they made me a true wrestling fan. I wasn't missing any more WrestleManias at this point. I was locked in. I was invested. WrestleMania 27 came around and I was like, okay, all right. Well, no offense to The Miz, but it was The Miz winning the main event of WrestleMania 27. So I kind of blocked some of that stuff out. But then let's talk about once in a lifetime. John Cena, The Rock, WrestleMania 28. As a kid who had never experienced The Rock before, him coming back before WrestleMania 27 to be the special guest host of WrestleMania 27 was like, it was literally a goosebump-inducing moment. You know how he does that right before he comes on? He's got the goosebumps, all right? As Wheezy Blonde says, he's got the goosies. And every time that he comes out, that was how I felt when he showed up right before WrestleMania 27. I couldn't believe I was witnessing The Rock for my very first time as a pro wrestling fan. And then WrestleMania 27 came around, the stuff with The Rock, Miz, John Cena, all that set up WrestleMania 28. The night after WrestleMania 27, we got a year-long build to John versus Rock once in a lifetime. How do I explain what this meant to me as a kid? I had never seen a Rock match. Never, ever, ever. I hadn't gone back and watched WrestleManias at that point. I wasn't that into it. I was only watching the current product. Maybe I'd seen a couple documentaries online, or whether they were on Netflix back in the day. But I pretty much just watched the product for what it was and didn't go back in time. Didn't watch previous episodes of Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-views. Just watched what was happening. And seeing this build to Rock and John Cena, this legendary performer, The Rock, who I obviously know all about from being in other movies outside of WWE, this was a dream as a kid. Seeing these two megastars go face to face against each other at WrestleMania 28 being billed once in a lifetime, the entire build to it, whether you want to say that the whole awesome truth thing against John and Rock at, what was it, Extreme Rules? Maybe I'm misremembering the actual pay-per-view, but like that wasn't anything too crazy, but yet it got a lot of people talking. Awesome Truth were decent at their time for that. And it just, I was invested in every step of the way. And do I look at that like it was a perfect build? No, it probably wasn't a perfect build, but as a kid, I was so excited, man. I couldn't believe that we were about to get John Cena and The Rock at WrestleMania 28. And I was on the edge of my seat the entire match, back and forth, watching John and Rock use each other's moves. John making that mistake right at the very end, only for The Rock to hit the rock bottom and pin John Cena. My mouth dropped. I didn't normally see John Cena lose, just like most people who watched during that time as well. We didn't see John lose, and to see him lose to The Rock like that, just a moment that sticks with me. WrestleMania twice in a lifetime, like WrestleMania 29, doesn't have the same vibe to me. I just don't even really remember that match. I remember John and Rock raising each other's hands, or Rock raising John's hand at the very end. Like, some stuff happened for sure, but the entire build of once in a lifetime, thinking that it was going to be a once in a lifetime match, because obviously that's what they dubbed it as, made it feel completely unmissable. It was must see, and it was just one of those moments that stick with me. I can still remember Rock and John Cena. That look on John Cena's face at the very end after losing that match to Rock, just chef's kiss. But let's get into what was my favorite WrestleMania of all time up until... actually, hang on, that's a bold call. This still might be my favorite WrestleMania of all time. It's up there for sure. WrestleMania 40 and WrestleMania 30 hold a very, very special place in my heart. There is no question about that. And seeing what happened, well, let's just talk about it. The streak, okay? There is very few moments in pro wrestling history where everybody can remember exactly where they were. There's a few, all right? I'm sure if you watched Hulk Hogan turn heel for the very first time when he was at Bash at the Beach, I'm sure you can remember exactly where you were for that. I'm sure a lot of people remember exactly where they were when Eddie Guerrero won the WWE Championship. I'm pretty sure everybody remembers exactly where they were when Randy Orton got the thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, these are iconic moments in pro wrestling history. Let's bring it a little bit closer, to an event that just happened. Everybody remembers exactly where they were when those final 8 minutes of WrestleMania 40 played out between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, not John Cena. But everybody has these moments, and for me, I can remember exactly where I was when Undertaker lost his streak. I was sitting in my dorm room. I had ordered like a medium pizza from Domino's. I had some pasta and I had a 2-liter bottle of Coke, and I was just so ready to watch Yesmania, watching Daniel Bryan beat Triple H in the opening match of the night, going on to the main event, which, by the way, that's also one of those moments that just made me a pro wrestling fan, and I'll talk about Bryan winning the title in just a minute here. But when we got to Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, I kid you not, I didn't care. I thought Undertaker was going to wipe the floor with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was a beast, but again, I didn't experience Brock Lesnar until he came back to WWE and had that feud with John Cena, which probably could have been one of those moments that I'm like, oh, this made me a pro wrestling fan because it was the Raw after Mania, if I'm not mistaken. But we're talking about WrestleMania stuff. And seeing Brock come back, I was like, oh, this is a beast. This is a true menace. I know him from UFC. I know what he can do. I know he's an absolute monster, and this is a game changer right here. And seeing Brock go up against Undertaker, though, I never for 1 second thought that the streak was in danger. Not for a second. We're talking about Undertaker, the dead man, the guy who runs the yard. He's the big dog. Okay, well, now it seems like I'm just passing over Roman's gimmick to him. But when you saw this matchup, I think the reason why it was so surprising for everybody that Brock beat Undertaker was because nobody actually saw it happening. Nobody. I mean, sure, if you go back in time, there's probably some people that were like, see, I said it. I called it. But nobody in their heart of hearts truly believed that Undertaker's streak was coming to an end that night at Brock Lesnar. A lot of people said Brock didn't need it. I could argue that he kind of did because he turned into the Beast incarnate and he went on that incredible run. As much as people like to crap all over it, it drew a lot of money for WWE and bumped a lot of viewership up every time he was on the TV. So, like, he was a successful draw as champion. They just couldn't figure out the challengers and how to make some captivating stories with him as champion. But Brock Lesnar, when he beat Undertaker, became a whole different man. And I was sitting back. I think I literally had like a glass of Coke in my hand and like a half slice of pizza in my other hand. And I wasn't into it. I was just kind of sitting back. Just the arena was kind of dull. It wasn't too loud. And then all of a sudden, that F5 hit. I leaned forward. I'm like, no, that's not the end, is it? Kick out, Undertaker. You got it. 1, 2, 3. And seeing Paul Heyman with his, oh my God, Brock Lesnar's smile, the look at the crowd, the Undertaker streak guy, everybody was in shock. And I think the thing for me that was most shocking was that the music didn't play right away. We were left in silence. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. The Undertaker streak ending, this could be a whole conversation for another podcast in the future, but right now, looking back on it, it was one of those moments that made me a die-hard pro wrestling fan. It showed me that even when I think I know what's going to happen, I don't know what's going to happen. And that's a good thing for everybody listening as well. Like, you might know in your head what you think is going to happen, but then when WWE actually swerves you, when they go in a completely different direction that nobody is expecting, that is when professional wrestling is at its best. And we had one of those moments with Brock Lesnar ending the streak at WrestleMania 30. It was a somber moment after that. But then we rolled into what I believe is, again, one of the main reasons why I am a pro wrestling fan. And it was just this feeling of hope right after we saw Undertaker's streak end. It was dull. It was like, oh my God, we just basically witnessed a death on TV is what it felt like. And then we had to get back into it. We had to get excited for the triple threat main event between Batista and Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. Now, imagine if this was actually Randy Orton versus Batista one-on-one at WrestleMania 30 and Daniel Bryan wasn't involved in it at all. And we'd be singing a completely different tune right here, but Daniel Bryan getting inserted into that match after beating Triple H in the first match of the night at WrestleMania 30, that was the story we all got invested in, right? We sunk our teeth into it at the very, very start of the night with Bryan winning over Triple H, going into the main event, all taped up. We knew that we could witness a miracle. We knew that we were about to witness Yesmania. The question was just, is it actually going to happen? We all knew, but similar to how we knew Undertaker was going to defend his streak, we didn't actually know if Bryan was going to win the title. Just like we didn't actually know that Undertaker was going to lose his streak at WrestleMania 30. It was one of the biggest, lows to highs I've experienced as a wrestling fan, being so sad and so happy in the span of an hour. That WrestleMania 30 sticks with me. Watching it from my dorm room, when I was in college and university, that first year that I was away from home, I watched a lot of wrestling. It's when I really fell in love with NXT. It's when I fell in love with the main roster. I enjoyed wrestling, but I loved it after that point. I watched so much. The WWE Network came around, so it was just endless hours of content for me to become a deeper and bigger pro wrestling fan. But WrestleMania 30 is the reason really for that, because it took me in a completely different direction than I ever thought. It made me emotionally invested in a completely different way. I was emotionally invested for Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, but at that point, I'd now been watching for 6 years. Oh my goodness, I'd been watching wrestling for 6 years at that point, and caring about the pro wrestling and the pay-per-views and being a true pro wrestling fan that way, that it just stuck with me. So WrestleMania 30 is just one of those nights that made me who I am today as a wrestling fan. But then we go 1 year later, and the year later, look, WrestleMania 31, I'm not going to crap on any WrestleManias after this, but there's moments I remember from a Mania, and then there's a lot of moments I don't remember. WrestleMania 31 is one of those cards that I don't have a great memory for. I really struggled to remember a lot of the stuff that happened on the card. But the one thing that I remember just popping so loud for, I got actually out of my seat. I was standing, man. I was standing for this moment when Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank contract and pulled off the heist of the century in the main event of WrestleMania. Nobody was really into Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at that time, which continued to be a theme for many years to come. And they just kept facing each other for whatever reason. I digress. This was just one of those moments fans didn't want to see a winner between Brock and Roman. And Seth Rollins saved us. He saved the main event of WrestleMania and took it from what I think was going to be one of the more dull main events of WrestleMania, with a result that just fans couldn't care less about, to one of the most memorable moments in WrestleMania history. Like, Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank contract is talked about as the greatest Money in the Bank cash-in of all time. And I don't think anybody is going to disagree with that at this point. Even seeing some amazing cash-ins through the years, it's still the best. It's still a moment that hadn't been done before, and it was a special moment because of the implications it had on WWE. Seeing Rollins cash in that Money in the Bank contract will live with me for life. 1,000%. It's the best. It's the best cash in of all time. Let's fast forward here now to WrestleMania 33. I have very little memory of WrestleMania 32. And that's what it is. I don't really want to dog on it, but WrestleMania 33 had a moment that I will never forget. And I know you know exactly what it is, because I'm pretty sure. Hang on, let me look something up here before I say anything. Yes, it was. Okay. WrestleMania 33 was the very first WrestleMania I ever streamed. What? I know, crazy. But it's the truth. WrestleMania 33 was the first time I ever live streamed my reactions. I was at my buddy Steve's house, and we set up the camera. We had our live stream overlay. We had a lot of people join the chat throughout the night. But it was so memorable because I remember the build up to WrestleMania 33. Everybody talking about how could the Hardys show up? Maybe the Hardys are going to be here. And I know right now, hearing that, that's like, okay, the Hardys, cool. Yeah, that's a cool moment. We just got them, in NXT, and we had the TNA NXT crossover thing. But the Hardy Boys back at WrestleMania 33, there was a hype around them. This was like back when the Hardy Boys were coming out of with Matt Hardy and the elite character, the broken Matt Hardy character. This was when he was like at his prime, I would say, in terms of character work. He was completely taking over TNA, and everybody online was talking about the Hardy Boys like every single day and hoping and praying that we see the Hardy Boys back in WWE. Well, then it was starting to get a little murky. It was like, oh, they're wrestling the night before. I think it was against the Young Bucks. Am I not mistaken? Was that at Ring of Honor? Were they the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and they wrestled the Young Bucks the night before WrestleMania or something like that? And the moment that match was booked, a lot of people were like, they're not showing up, right? There's not a chance that they're going to show up at WrestleMania. But then the tag team ladder match came around, and the New Day stepped out, who were the hosts of WrestleMania, and they're like, I wonder who this last team could be. And they made it seem like it was going to be them, only to step aside to the largest pop I have ever heard. I legitimately think it's the largest pop. I'm still getting goosebumps thinking about it. That reaction for the Hardy Boys returning, as soon as the first few beats of their theme song hit, the da-da-dun, everybody lost their minds. I lost my mind. Hell, you could go back and check out my reaction. It's still on YouTube to this day. Hell, like it's one of those moments that if you saw it, you remember it. And it's me talking about it. I guarantee some people listening right now have some goosebumps on their arms. They're getting some chills up and down their backs thinking of this incredible moment when the Hardys returned to WWE. And not only returned to WWE, but returned at WrestleMania and won the tag team titles in the process. Just what a moment for the Hardys, and it will always live with me. But I have two more moments I want to talk about here in terms of the matches that made me, and they're a lot more recent. So before we get into those two, though, I got some honorable mentions because Conman likes to lie apparently, and he likes to say we have 2 more, bait and switch you, and now we got a few more. So really quickly, some other matches through the years that, or moments that have stuck with me when I was making this list. I thought of CM Punk and The Undertaker, the whole urn build with Undertaker and CM Punk, the loss of Paul Bearer, just that entire build was very well done. Punk was such a menace. It just, that stands out to me. The WrestleMania match themselves, they put on a pretty damn good one, so it was enjoyable. Triple H versus Sting at WrestleMania 31, another one of those matches that I can just remember watching it in real time and remember being so excited when everybody came out. It wasn't necessarily about the match itself between Triple H and Sting, but it was the moments, the bat, the sledgehammer, the NWO, DX. It was WWE versus WCW, and whether you like it or not, WWE ended up with the dub and did one final burial of WCW. It was Vince getting his one last FU to them, right? And I loved that moment right there, just seeing Sting and Triple H in the ring together. DX, NWO, everything about it was super fun. Zack Ryder winning the IC title at WrestleMania 32. The reason why this sticks with me is because, like, just my buddy Steve was like, hey, was it WrestleMania 32? Yeah, it was WrestleMania 32. I can just remember my buddy Steve picking Zack Ryder to win, and I laughed at it. I actually laughed, saying there's not a chance Zack Ryder's winning this thing. And then he did, so that stands out to me. There's Triple H and Steph versus Kurt Angle and Ronda at WrestleMania 34. If you saw the match, you understand it was seeing Ronda Rousey in the WWE ring. Also, Triple H and Angle wrestling each other. Very, very fun to watch at the time. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, WrestleMania 37, Night 1. Do I need to say more about that matchup? But one thing I will also say is the reason why it's super memorable is because that was the very first time that I also was featured on the WWE TV showing my reaction. Like, it was the reaction to Bianca. Oh gosh, I can't even remember what the reaction was, but it was something along the bill. I think it might have been when Bianca won the title back from Becky, or if that's even the right timeline, I can't remember exactly. But it was the very first time I was featured on WWE TV for my reactions, which was pretty damn cool. Stone Cold versus Kevin Owens, WrestleMania 38. Seeing Stone Cold wrestle a match, like, just come on now. Like, how could you beat it? Seeing him wrestle Kevin Owens, amazing main event. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens winning the tag team titles at WrestleMania 39. If you know, you know. You were here in the stream. You know how much I love Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And then, of course, Sami Zayn beating Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania 40. Awesome. Those are my honorable mentions. Let's get into now the 2 most recent moments that made me the fan I am today. And is it gonna be difficult to guess as to what it is if you're watching the video right now, considering that I have that man hanging up right there in the corner? Let's begin at WrestleMania 38. The return of Cody Rhodes to WWE against Seth Rollins, the mystery opponent. Ollie, okay. I'm getting emotional thinking about this already. The build up to it, the wondering and the concern, is he actually going to show up? Is Cody going to arrive? There was so much conversation around, like, Cody leaving AEW. Is this going to be a success story, or should he have stayed in AEW? Is he going to actually rise to the very top? Is he going to be the first Rhodes to win the WWE Championship? Or is he just going to be the next Rhodes to be pushed to the side for somebody else, right? Like, there was so much concern around Cody Rhodes returning to WWE that we weren't sure if it was actually going to happen. There were so many rumors, lots of people saying it will happen, and just as many people saying it wouldn't. So when WrestleMania 38 Night 1 rolled around, we were left waiting. And waiting and waiting. And it was almost like this was the biggest moment of WrestleMania that year. We were wondering, would Cody Rhodes actually show up in WWE? And when Seth Rollins had that open challenge, it seemed so much more likely. And then it finally happened. Cody Rhodes debuted in WWE with the exact same theme song, the exact same presentation, the exact same guy from AEW. And that right there, I gotta say, is a groundbreaking moment in WWE history. There's very few people who have come from one company to another and been the exact same character, like to a T, same theme song even. Like, that just doesn't happen. There's so many hoops that you gotta jump through and so many tape that you gotta be able to get past in order for that to happen. But somehow, some way, Cody Rhodes showed up in WWE as the exact same character that he was getting over in AEW. It was almost like an NXT call-up in a way where like you've seen this person win some stuff, do some really cool things, and now they're going to get the chance on the bigger stage once again. And it was just really cool also because I grew up watching Cody Rhodes. Like, I think I saw Cody Rhodes debut, if I'm not mistaken, like alongside the tag team partner of Hardcore Holly. And then I'm pretty sure I witnessed at least a replay of Cody Rhodes turning on Hardcore Holly and winning the tag team titles with Ted DiBiase Jr. Like, I've seen all of that stuff, and it resonated with me. I saw the rise of Stardust and then the leaving of Cody Rhodes. I remember when he made that list for the independent scene where he's like, I'm going to go here. You guys got to remember, I've been streaming pro wrestling since 2017, okay? It's been a long time, man. And I can remember the list of all the independent wrestlers that he wanted to go and wrestle, and he was going to go one by one down that list. And eventually, he sold out a 10,000-seat arena and then made AEW. It's a crazy story to now see him back in WWE. It felt like we would never see him there, but then when he came back, what a moment. What a moment. And the match itself against Seth Rollins was a banger, the beginning of an incredible feud between the two of them. Just everything about that return from Cody Rhodes, awesome. I loved it. And then 2 years later, we got the moment of all moments. I don't know if there has been a wrestling storyline that I have been invested in the way I was invested in Cody Rhodes winning the WWE Championship. From WrestleMania 38, the injury that he got in like before Hell in a Cell, the return to win the Royal Rumble, failing to capture the championship from Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39, going on through his hard times, wrestling that feud against Brock Lesnar, making his way back into the WWE, winning the he was already in the WWE, but making his way back to the main event scene, winning the Royal Rumble, going to WrestleMania 40, only for The Rock to snatch the main event away from him, for the fans to get completely behind Cody Rhodes, and for us to get not one but two main events at WrestleMania 40 with Cody Rhodes involved. And finally, Cody Rhodes finishing his story. I don't know if there is another match and with a build like this that I have ever experienced in pro wrestling. The closest one is Yesmania. And Yesmania felt very, very different from Cody Rhodes. Yesmania was the fans finally being heard. The fans champion that they wanted in Daniel Bryan to win the title, they finally listened and they gave him a bit of a run. It's unfortunate he got injured shortly after, but like it was an incredible moment just to experience that with all the fans. The rise of Daniel Bryan. But the rise of Cody Rhodes wasn't like the fans saying, F your pick, F John Cena, F Roman Reigns, or F whoever. It wasn't them picking. It was the fans were behind Cody Rhodes. They didn't just want to see him win just to stick it to management. They were behind Cody Rhodes, so much so that The Rock needed to be pushed to the side in a main event matchup against Roman Reigns. That's how much the fans loved him, and I'm one of those fans. I was so invested in the Cody Rhodes story that I am still invested in Cody Rhodes to this day. This story, the run to WrestleMania 40, is the reason why this run to WrestleMania 41 has felt very important, right? The follow-up of Cody Rhodes winning the title at WrestleMania 40. If we want to compare it to Star Wars, that was A New Hope. That was the fourth episode of Star Wars. The fifth one, well, there needs to be some adversity, and I wonder if Cody Rhodes is going to lose that title to John Cena this year, and who knows what that means for episode 6, right? Who knows what that means for Cody Rhodes when they go back to it. Anyways, I'm rambling a little bit at this point. This match made me a huge wrestling fan, even more of a wrestling fan than I was before. And I love that. I love that my wrestling fandom continues to grow as we go through these great WrestleManias. And I wonder just what's going to happen this year at WrestleMania 41 that's going to make me, Conman167, even a bigger fan of this amazing sport. But let me know what WrestleMania moments made you in the comments section below. And also make sure you leave a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and keep coming back every single day because we upload wrestling videos every single day. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.